I have been going through a few things here lately with my budget, and I feel like it's really important to once in a while just get back to basics. Because at the end of the day, it's about so much more than just sitting down and thinking about what you want and what you have to plan for this month and doing your budget. In the long term, obviously, you have very specific goals that you want to meet. So in my case, I had about $550 of unexpected expenses a couple of months ago, and I'm still trying to catch up from that. On top of that, I've been dealing with a lot of personal things, so I just haven't really been in the right mindset to do an accurate budget and stick to it. So now that I'm kind of getting back on track, I really have wanted to kind of revisit my own mentality when it comes to how I want to manage my money and how I want to meet my financial goals. So if you are in a similar place, I would recommend looking up just basic quotes. You don't have to go read a bunch of different financial books. Money quotes are sometimes something that can kind of get me a little bit remotivated when it comes to managing my money and managing my budget. Now, I will leave a link to the article I got most of these quotes from in case you want to look through and see what you agree with. I think it's just important to kind of challenge yourself a little bit and go, okay, which of these things can I actually apply? Which of these things don't really make sense for my situation? And I've done this type of exercise before, and I've just found it to be really, really helpful. The first quote is from Benjamin Franklin. If you would be wealthy, think of saving as well as getting. Now, my perspective on saving specifically has changed a bit over the years, but obviously it does you way more than just spending all of your money. But when it comes to thinking of saving as well as getting, I think that's a very important point because so often we think to ourselves when we're in financial trouble, oh, I need more money. I need more money. I need a second job. I need to find a side hustle, something along those lines. When really, maybe we're just not saving enough. Maybe we're not preparing enough for unexpected expenses. Maybe we're not setting enough aside for our emergency fund, things like that. Now, don't get me wrong. If you're not happy with what you're making, if you want more money for whatever reason, whether it's just fun money, whether it's to get yourself out of a situation, whether it's to improve your overall lifestyle, whatever the case may be, getting more money isn't going to help you all that much if you are not doing a good job at managing the money you already have now. The next quote is from Warren Buffett. Do not save what is left after spending. Instead, spend what is left after saving. This one, I do feel that I should probably start to actually apply to my life because so frequently I will look at the bills that I have. I will look at the budget that I've set. I will spend those things. I will use whatever's left for the other things that I need to spend that are kind of the variable expenses. And then from there, I will be like, okay, how much can I actually set aside to my savings? Now, in my own mind, I can justify why I handle my money this way, and if there's something that's really important that I can't avoid, that is a bit of a higher expense, it can make sense to wait to see what I have left over, to see what I can pull to savings. You should really be figuring out what you need to save each month or each paycheck, whichever strategy you use, and going from there. The next quote is from Zig Ziglar. Time well spent results in more money to spend, more money to save, and more time to vacation. What I like about this quote is that I reread it a couple times because it really made me think about how I manage my time versus how I manage my money. I manage my money either very well to decent. I'm not a money expert. I definitely drop the ball sometimes. I'll be the first to admit it. But I'm usually pretty good about thinking through my budget and actually sticking with it and checking in with it during that pay period. Managing my time, though, is like a whole different animal. And I don't know why. I don't know why it's such a big deal that I manage my money differently. But for whatever reason, it is. Next quote is from Plato. The greatest wealth is to live content with little. This one I can kind of take to heart because I think sometimes I could do a bit of a better job being grateful for what I have to work with. I've got a job that I love. I am paid fairly for what I do. I have my own apartment. I have 2 cats that I love. My situation could certainly be better, but it could also be way, 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 way worse. However, while I think it's important to be content with what you have, I try not to dwell too much on this type of thinking of just being content with little, because if you want more, then go for more. And if you're willing to put in the work, go for it. But either way, whether you are content with little or not, I think it's important to approach any situation with some degree of gratitude and recognizing that your situation could be worse. The next quote is from Warren Buffett. Chains of habit are too light to be felt until they are too heavy to be broken. That one really, really struck a chord with me because the reality is, at least in my life, some of my bad habits I really don't feel the pain of it. I really don't get it until there is some type of situation that forces me to realize, okay, this is a bad habit and it's hurting me. So there is a lot of truth to this quote. Honestly, I could probably make a whole video just on that quote alone. Like there's so many areas of my life where that applies and is kind of a light bulb moment for me. The next one is from Dave Ramsey. You must gain control over your money or the lack of it will forever control you. Ain't that the truth? And I think that's kind of the heart of budgeting that it took me a while to understand. It's not just about creating a goal, looking at your finances, making your budget from there, and hopefully sticking with it. At the end of the day, it's about controlling your money. So if you set a budget that's kind of a challenge for you to stick with, that's really more of a test. Like, are you actually willing to change these bad habits? Are you actually willing to track your spending? Are you actually willing to look at what you can change? Because you can write down whatever you want to on a budget sheet. If you're not sticking with it, then it's pointless. It's up to you to make those changes to control where your money is going. The next quote is from Tennessee Williams. You can be young without money, but you can't be old without it. That's a quote that really just got me thinking because I really don't have that much of a retirement plan. Like I have something, but it's not really legit, so to speak. It's not very solid. And that's something I really need to change. I am certainly not getting any younger. I am 35 years old. You only have so much time to prepare for retirement. And honestly, the sooner you start thinking about retirement, the better. I can deal with being my age and having some of the money struggle, which I'm not struggling terribly, but I can deal with the struggles I'm having now and the struggles I've had in the past at my age. I do not want to be dealing with those kind of hassles and headaches when I am 60 years old, 65 years old. Like I really want to set myself up for success in the future. So that's something I really want to apply to my financial planning because I don't think I've devoted quite enough time to that. The next quote is another one from Benjamin Franklin. Beware of little expenses. A small leak will sink a great ship. So this is one that I think about pretty frequently because I used to be in that habit of when it came to shopping, at least, oh, it's $5. Oh, it's $20. Oh, it's $25. It's not that much money. Therefore, it's kind of whatever. And those smaller expenses, they would add up so fast. And it really hit me back at the time. I think I was writing down a budget, but I wasn't sticking with it. I wasn't following through with it. I wasn't tracking my expenses. I didn't really get it yet. So it was almost pointless for me to do to begin with. But once I started really tracking my expenses and comparing all of that to my budget and realizing how over budget I was in certain areas, it really clicked with me. And I was like, oh my gosh, I've really been making an excuse for all of these smaller expenses, which seemed okay at the time, but look how many of these small expenses I have. Look at how much they've added up to. I don't think it's wrong to treat yourself, especially if it's something small here and there, but definitely just try to stay within your budget. Try to budget for those things. And above all, just maintain that mindset. Just be aware if you are going over budget, even if it's by a small amount, how much it might cost you later. There's no sense in preventing yourself from getting the things you really want in life because you're spending so much money on cheap, small junk that you don't really need. Next one is from Suze Orman. When you understand that your self-worth is not determined by your net worth, then you'll have financial freedom. I don't know how much this one really applies to me, but it is something that kind of made me think a little bit. I'm not in the I'm not in the tax bracket where I have ever once associated my self-worth with my net worth. I don't think about things that way. But a lot of people do. But even though I'm not sitting down and calculating my net worth, there have definitely been plenty of times where I have really beat myself up for a stupid decision I made financially, which is actually something I will be following up on another video. But I actually think it's kind of a good thing to beat yourself up a little bit for your mistakes. I feel like having some level of shame over it, for me, is what has kind of helped me get out of it. The next quote is from Chris Brogan. The goal isn't more money. The goal is living life on your terms. And when it comes to the areas of my life that I'm not content in, that's really what it is. I'm not living my life the way that I want to. I don't fully have the lifestyle that I actually want to be living. So when I start to get frustrated and I start to get stressed and I start to feel like I'm sick of sitting in the house never doing anything, I'm sick of never having shopping money, I'm sick of not, going out and having more fun, that's kind of what I try to just come back down to and think about. I really have to just kind of take a step back and remember I'm doing this to help my future. Might feel a little bit uncomfortable right now, might be a little bit unpleasant right now, but there is a goal, there is a plan, there's a reason I'm doing this. And the last one is from Josh Billings. Debt is like any other trap, easy to get into, but hard enough to get out of. I will be creating a debt payoff plan in the next couple of weeks, so that is something that's on my mind pretty heavy because some of it was definitely avoidable. Just about all debt, you could argue, is really avoidable, but one of the situations I felt was kind of out of my hands and I was a bit backed into a corner. But the other items, those were avoidable. They were just avoidable, and that's just the bottom line. I don't think it's fair to fault people for opening a new credit card, getting a line of credit, taking a personal loan, whatever. If there is a true financial crisis that they are facing, and that feels in the moment at least like it's kind of the only way out, I get it. But getting into any financial debt that was really not necessary to resolve something immediate, there's not really much excuse for. And lastly, I do have just one honorable mention, and it's a quote from Galadriel in The Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship stands on the edge of the knife. Stray but a little and it will fail. The last time I watched it, that quote really stood out to me as being a good money quote. The first half of the quote is not really relevant to me. I'm not part of any fellowship. But stray but a little and it will fail. That is such a powerful sentiment. It kind of gets back to the concept of small leaks can still sink a great ship. You can't just make a plan. If you don't stick with it and you don't check in with your budget and you don't track your expenses, you will be straying a little, and you will go from straying a little to straying a lot. And then the next thing you know, you are so off course, it feels like it's impossible to get back on track. So, to the best of your ability, do not stray.